All right, guys. I hope you guys can watch me live. If yes, feel free to let us know where you're joining from. And welcome to the ODSC Warm-Up event. We have our special guest, Chip Huyen, today. Before we get into the ODSC West conference, which is happening from the 16th to 18 November. And the good news is it is an in-person and virtual event too. So a good hybrid event for you guys. Especially put by the ODSC team. Today, we'll be discussing the rise of MLOps, data engineering, ML engineering, and a lot around Chip Huyen's journey. So feel free to have your questions. Also, we have a good news that everyone attending today from LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, you have a chance to win four all access passes to our West conference. You just need to do is put a hashtag West in the chat section. I'll quickly show you where we are actually getting those names for the raffle and those who are actually putting a West hashtag West. Let me quickly bring this up. Yes, this is what you need to type in the comment section, and we will be choosing from the raffle a few winners, and you have a chance to win the West Conference tickets. All right, guys. Without any further ado, I will be now inviting Chip Huyen and Sheamus, my colleague, to discuss a lot more about ML engineering. Hey, Chip. Hey, Sheamus. Welcome to the
Hi.
ODSC warm-up event. It is such a pleasure to have you guys and can't wait to start discussing about ML engineering, about Chip's journey, about her non-tech background as well, because we were just talking backstage about it, but would love for audience to also get that sneak peek. And obviously they can catch up with Chip in the West Conference, which is happening, as I mentioned, from 16th to 18th in San Francisco. So to begin with, obviously, Chip, we would love to have your introduction.
Hey there. Thanks, Rabbit and Simmers, for like creating this incredible community and for like letting me be part of it. So, my name is Chip, and I'm the founder of a startup that is building infrastructure for real-time machine learning. We are still in stealth right now, so we're not. But hopefully we can have more to share with you guys soonish. I'm also teaching designing machine learning systems at Stanford. And I know also I'm from Vietnam, and I'm aware that I have an accent. So, and sometimes I get nervous, I speak really fast. So if there's anything you can't hear, or when I speak too fast, please do let me know to slow down.
Chip, great to have you. And I also have an accent, so when I tell people if I talk too
What,
fast, they're thinking too slow.
what I blame it on the videos, like online videos you watch 2x, and you're just like, okay, that's how people talk at 2x speed, and then go in real life, everyone just like talk really slow. So
Yes,
All
those
right.
those those Coursera courses and all that stuff. That's right.
Oh, I have an interesting question for Chip. Obviously, to begin with, we know for a fact that Chip, you are more into machine learning, but this question kind of arrived just right now to me. That how have you seen in last few years? How has machine learning changed, and how would you put it in words for a non-technical audience? What has actually changed in last few years?
wow, it's a great question, but I feel like it's a good question. So I need to try to think of a good answer. So for me, I got into machine learning at around 2014, and since then it has changed a lot, at least personally for me.
Mhm.
I think at the beginning when I first got interested in machine learning is I think it's a lot of people got interested in machine learning as well. It's because of on the rise of big models and AlexNet got a really good result, and then people like the revival, like, oh wow, machine learning big models can actually like do a lot. And then a lot of people got into research, understand what does that mean. So I also got into doing research, so I was trying to like do research with professors at Stanford. And after but like the more I did more research, the more I realized it's like, oh, the problem was like more into like bringing this research to production. So I joined NVIDIA on the applied research team.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's say I was like helping, I was contributing to Nemo, which is like a conversational AI framework. And I was looking at it, and I got a chance to work with some of the NVIDIA customers. And the more I talked to like people internationally, I realized there's so many challenges. And I switched into into like full-time engineering, like trying to help people bring machining into production. It's not that I don't think research is not interesting. I think research is still so many problems. It's just that like there are like even more problems into production space. So, and I think like over the years, I also noticed like things change. I feel like I think like different focus change over time. So in the beginning, like there were a lot of focus on like frameworks, like what frameworks like to build for machining. So there was like so many discussion like TNO, Cafe, like TensorFlow, PyTorch. But then over time, like you started seeing the winner emerge and we'll move on to the next phase. So I think at the time, I think in 2015, 17, 18, it was started getting very much into hardware. So it was like, okay, now model is getting bigger. So let's get a lot of like very powerful hardware. So that's where I got interested like in chips as well. So I got like I wanted to join NVIDIA. And then like NVIDIA is pretty much like emerged the winner. I mean, I guess it's always been a winner, I guess. Sorry, it's like very much like a still NVIDIA at heart. But like we have like Google with like TPU, we have like other companies, and I think there's still a lot of incredible research going on into hardware. But then I realized I'm not a good hardware engineer, so I think I got into like something else like labeling. I think for a while, like 2018, we got very interested into labeling because I also realized I want to train more on large model. You need a lot of data, and labeling is a bottleneck. So I think got into like Snorkel, which is like a full labeling space, programmatic labeling tool. But you know, like there are like a lot of tools in labeling, like the labeling space is like incredibly crowded right now. I think Scale AI is I think it's $4 billion company, and then they have like Appen providing like in-house solutions. They acquire Crowdflower for like $300 million or $400 million.
Right,
Yeah, Snorkel is also like a $1 billion company. Very happy about that. So it's an incredible team. So I'm very happy for the team as well. So yes, this is a long. Sorry, it's a very long-winded questions about how ML has changed. It's just like people shift focus over time. As a space getting too crowded, we're starting like looking into the next space, the next step in the pipeline.
Wow, this is super insightful and very, I think, a very genuine answer and something which you have actually put up with examples. So very well put there, Chip. Thanks for that answer. Okay, moving on. Obviously, we were talking about your machine learning system design. So could you tell us more about the course and its objective? How are you putting it together?
And Rabbit, this is the course Chip teaches at. This is the one you teach at Stanford currently, Chip. Is that correct?
Yeah. So not right now, but I teach it like once a year. So it's in the winter quarter from January to March. So it's not restart again in January. Yeah. So for is this a course? I think it's from my own personal interest. So for me, I would think of teaching as a way to learn. So it might not sound very reassuring to my students, but I think like when I become very interested in the topic, and if I look around, I think I can't find really good materials on it. So I think it's a lesson I learned in college actually. So there's the first time I taught was like TensorFlow. It was like I think around 2016, and then TensorFlow was released in end of 2015. So I think I tried TensorFlow in one of my internship and that was incredible, but I tried to learn. There was not enough resources. So I actually went to my professors like, can you guys teach a course on TensorFlow? And they were like, we don't have time for it. And they were like, why don't you just like create like a work group with people? So I think like the course is like for a way for me to like gather other people also interested in it and learn together with me. So I think the same idea about machine learning systems design, I think in the industry, I noticed that at that time, there was a lot of progress and innovations, but they are like a little bit fragmented. So like a person focus on like hardware, another person focus on labeling, another person focus on experiment tracking, another on data versioning, another on like bringing things off the edge. So it's like very fragmented. And I feel like when an engineer, when they start working on a project, they get a very smaller view of the workflow and not us, and it's like hard to bring them together. So I thought that like maybe I should like find a way to have a more overall system design perspective of the process, and that's why I created the course.
Yeah, and just if I'm mad, Rabbit, I had a chance to just briefly view the syllabus of the course, Chip, before we get on this call, and yeah, I'm actually super impressed for a number of reasons. First and foremost, as a conference, data science applied conference organizer,
Yeah.
we get a lot of questions and complaints about people who come to our events looking for data scientists and engineers. And we definitely evolved from the time you referenced back to 2012, 2014, from doing models on your laptop. But I think a lot of employers feel like, especially graduate students and students graduating, they put a lot of emphasis on the fundamentals and the foundational courses and the foundational models, of course, which one has to. But in addition to that, they think because they know Python and TensorFlow that they're done. They know everything about machine learning engineering there is to know about. So when it comes to some of the more traditional engineering disciplines like continuous integration, deployment, monitoring, debugging machine learning models, like the stuff you need to kind of hit the ground running as a junior machine learning engineer in a company.
Yeah.
So I was actually super impressed by the content of that course. But I do have one kind of follow-up question for you. So the majority of these students taking this course, I assume that have prerequisites and machine learning 101 and all that good stuff. But like, do you have a hard time? Because for the most part, they'd be thinking like, I can worry about the stuff at scale. I can worry about the engineering when I get my first job. So I see a disconnect between sometimes people getting into the field, junior data scientists, and the employers, what they're expecting from graduate students. But do you see are students embracing the engineering side of the machine learning discipline more these days, or is that slowly sinking in?
Yes, I think this is a very interesting point you brought up. So I think the first is that I think there's a little bit two different things here. It's like whether like students are more interested in machine learning aspect and science aspect, or more the engineering aspect. And another point is like about the end-to-end workflow, whether like a person should know the entire workflow of machine learning or not, right? Am I correct? Yeah. So I think for the first part, I definitely when I first started machine learning, at least me, I was like on about machine learning, like taking like theoretical machine learning courses, learning the different like activation functions and like models, because it sounds like exciting. It was like new. It was like wow, it's like cutting edge technology. But then I realized it was not enough. And I think a lot of people have realized that as well. So I think a lot of my students, maybe it's selection bias because people who want to take my classes, like my class is also like interested in it. But I see a lot of my students are very interested in engineering aspect. It's not that some of them might not have the knowledge, like they may not come with like knowing how to like set up CI/CD, but they're very excited, eager to learn. And so I think that's one thing I realized, like for engineering, the best way to learn actually by doing. So I think we would try to make a conscious effort to get students to start on the final project very early. So we don't wait until like half quarter to like do the project, but like we started introducing the project like from week one. So the students can just learn the concept and can apply it right away. And I think it's has been a lot of success because like by 10 weeks, the students have never like thinking about deployment before could like actually deploy a project of machining systems and users can actually use. And we were like extremely impressed. Yeah.
Wow.
This is super cool. Very insightful. And
yeah.
No, Chip,
I was wondering.
Go ahead.
No, I was wondering, should men go back to the second point about like end-to-end workflow, or is this we can move on to the next topic?
Yeah, definitely. One topic that I was very curious about, that you actually made you have actually written a book for everyone, which is Introduction to Machine Learning Interviews book, and you made it public for everyone to out there. So can you tell us more about it? What can people actually learn out of it? In because I have had a look at the table of content, the things that you've put in when you released the book. It was fantastic, and it is still. So would love to know more about it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate. Thanks for the kind words. The book took a lot of time to write. So I guess because I come from a writing background, so I have a very strong bias into like writing everything that I can, like trying to learn everything. And I think I started as a project when I was I was out of college, and I was like doing a lot of interviews, and I realized it's like the interview at different places are like very different. And I think when as I graduated, a lot of my friends were looking for a job as well, and we all had the same problem. Like, it was very little understanding into like the machine learning, the interview process for machine learning roles. So a lot of like the questions since then have been answered. So I think I learned a lot from like other people as well. So I started talking to a lot of companies, hiring managers. So this book is it's not exactly like a cracking coding interview. So I think like the first part is about like understanding like different roles in industries, different
Mhm.
recruiting the interview process, recruiting pipeline at different companies, understand requirements. Because I think like that question will ask me like, what's the difference between a data scientist and machine learning engineer? Like, what's the difference between like a researcher and applied researcher? What about this fancy role like research engineers that you see as like Google, OpenAI? So like, what does that even mean? Or like and I also realize there's a big difference between like working at a startup and working at a big companies, and they can have very different interview process. So
True.
and so we so discussed, yeah. So it's a lot of it's like getting like more visibility into the recruiting process, so that like if I was to like start the job search process today, I have a better understanding of like what am I facing. And then the next
Mhm.
part of the book is more about like questions. So I think like the questions are more of like guideline for people to know like what topic to focus on. So for me, like when I prepare for an interview, like I like to look at the questions, not because I expect the question to be asked in the interview, but more of like, okay, I don't know the answers to the questions, and I think like it's an important topic. I should go back and like review the materials. So the book has a lot of pointers to relevant materials as well. So I think when I was writing the book, I thought about like, should I publish it, like start selling the book? Because I know that like I'm from Vietnam, so for me like buying to afford a book is like it was not always possible when I was younger. And I
Yeah.
think like there was a lot of biases like in the recruiting pipeline, as in like like people with privilege like can like it make it easier for them to like prepare and get access information. So I see so I wanted to like make it published like open source for free. So I hope that like somebody who used to be in my shoes and like not able to pay for a book can still get access into information that can help them prepare for their dream job.
That's very kind of you. That's what I can say.
It's awesome. Is that available on in GitHub, or
it's,
where's
it's
it?
on
Amazon as
yeah,
well?
it's on GitHub. Yeah, it's on GitHub. It's not on Amazon. It's on
Even
it's a
better.
Markdown book. Yeah, so on GitHub, and you click on the link. So it's like
Yeah.
it's like the
Well, excellent.
Markdown book,
Yeah,
like Rabbit Show. Yeah.
that's a fantastic resource. I'm sure it must have been a tremendous effort.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Thanks.
Okay. Also, a very interesting question around white AI. I could see it's super interesting. So, would love to know more about that as well.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat
White
it,
AI.
please? Why AI?
I think Rabbit, you mean the organization you started in
Oh,
Vietnam?
Viet AI. Oh, yeah. I didn't start the organization. I
Oh,
think,
sorry.
yeah, it's a lot of work, and I have so much respect for people who started,
Okay.
and I wish I could start something that meaningful. I'm very much on the side, like cheering them on and like help when I can. So Viet AI is a non-profit organization. So I think as the people who started the organization, maybe if you haven't interviewed them, maybe you should try to get them. So they work at, I think one of them at Google, and one of them started. It's a startup like Elsa. So it's like an app that just help people learn to correct your accent. So I think it's aimed at like a lot of people who speak English as second language. So she's great. Yeah. So I think it's from the realizations that so it's like for me when I talk to my friends, so they know what's up, like they know what's like the new cool tech. But you talk when I talk to my friends in Vietnam, they have no idea what AI is, and I was like, oh my god, technology. So the way technology progress is great, but the thing is that like technology progress will always widen the gap between those who have access to technology and those who don't. And I feel like as AI is like is moving things moving really fast. Like all the countries who have like make good investment in AI, so I have like a leap like in the underdeveloped countries like Vietnam, and they still don't have access to AI. So even put countries like Vietnam as like a huge disadvantage in the future. So it's like, is there something we can do to like to make AI material more accessible to people who are interested in AI in Vietnam. So that's a goal of the organization. So it's an education. I think like they develop courses, like from like introduction to AI to more advanced courses. And I think they just launched. They done the test run of incubator. So it is free to participate. So it's more like to help companies who are interested in using AI, so we can help them to like think through like what problems a company can be solved by AI and how do they get started.
It's great goal.
Makes sense. Yep. And
It's
also
a great organization. Yeah.
also on the other side, you do write books which are non-technical too, and I have obviously gone through your websites, and you have, I think you started writing back in 2012, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah,
Or
it was
maybe
a long
before
time
that.
ago.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little about those books as well? Like what keeps you, obviously you are like a super technical person when it comes to creating courses and teaching people at Stanford, but not only that, you have a other side where you write non-technical books. So which are these books?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So if you had asked me these questions like 5 years ago, I would just like brush it off because like when I first like so when I first got into ML engineering and I wanted to look for a job, and it was extremely difficult for me to look for a job because recruiters when they look at my so one recruiter told me when he looked at my resume, he was like, we can't take you seriously as an engineer if all you have done is writing. So there's somehow like there's a gap between like engineering and non-engineering, and people just like think it's like if you do one thing you can't do another. And at the time I had no engineering experience and actually all I had on my resume was writing, and they were like no, and it was like it became like very self-conscious. It was like so it's like script like okay, I'm not mentioning it to anyone. Even like my roommate, it's funny because my roommate in college, like I stayed with her for like she was my roommate for 3 years, and she didn't know that I had published a non-technical book until like we graduated because I was like really shy talking about it. So as it started is that so I come from a non-tech background. Now I feel like people don't judge me for it anymore. So I feel like it's actually a strength and not a weakness. So it took me a while to learn that. So you come from a non-tech background. I think like after high school, I was very lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So I started traveling. I was just like, let's travel, see how far I could go. And so I started writing for a magazine. I started hosting a column on like world culture for a magazine in Vietnam, and just started writing for a random website. And it's cheap to travel actually, like because I hitchhike a lot. I like couch surfing, thanks to like hundreds of people who helped me on the way. So I was able to like make it quite far. So I ended up traveling for 3 years. So like I think I spent a lot of time. I'm not sure where were you guys?
I'm in India.
Which part of India? Mumbai. I actually work as an extra actress in a Bollywood. So
wow.
I think I was in Bombay for a while, like 3 months.
It's awesome.
So in total, I was in India like half a year. Because India is cheap.
Wow.
It's like,
Yeah, very cheap.
like and it's incredible. Like there's so much to see in India. Like it's just like I spent 6 months there, and I want to spend like more time there, and I made great friends there. They're really great friends.
Well, Chip, I got bad news for you. I have dibs on Rabbit's couch, so you know it's already that space is already been taken.
You need to fight me on this. Like we need to fight. I think we can start the fight at the conference. Maybe we need Rabbit as a as a referee. Yeah.
And just a follow up to that, because we were doing some analysis by looking at many thousands of job descriptions and looking for what is the action between what does the industry think the difference between a data scientist and machine learning engineer versus a data engineer versus an AI engineer. So there's all these different roles and terms, and letting the data speak to what the differences are. But it was one of the things, and I did a presentation on this last year, but one of the things that really popped up that was very common across all is the and I know, like, we tested this hypothesis and everything, like, but everyone puts communication as an important skill in a resume, right? It's almost factors that, like, it's almost like footnotes. It's always in there. But when we did look at it, it was pretty high up. So what I always tell people is, like, some of the skills, we see a lot of people from non-technical backgrounds.
What skill? I missed a word.
Communication. Because we see a lot of people with non-technical backgrounds coming into machine learning and data science, and then they don't realize the power of a previous degree or something like that. It might be in economics, could be in history, it could be language major. But yeah, I think people underestimate the value in an organization of written and spoken communication skills and things like that. So it's a key thing. So I think coming in from that background, as you said, that was actually a key advantage. And as we were speaking before about machine learning systems designs, like people, they love the engineering aspect of it, the design aspect of it, the modeling aspect of it, but understanding how you can present your results, your findings, how you can put that in presentations. I know it may sound a bit prosaic, but again, this is what companies are looking for, because especially as the data scientist, maybe not so much in the ML engineering, but you're in there to solve problems, right? You're working in a given domain, a given discipline, and usually you're tasked with that. And at some point, you have to add your voice to that, and the more you understand how to do that. So I always encourage people to do lightning talks at meetups, give presentations, write blog, and all that stuff. So it's
yeah.
I think you were at a real strong advantage when you come into this field with strong communication field. But fascinating story, Chip. Anyway, sorry.
No, thank you. No, I think I agree with you the point about trying to put the work out there. I think so. Someone emailed me recently, and they told me that they feel intimidated and shy to put the kind of materials out there. It's every time we put something published, people will judge it, and they just don't feel comfortable. And I think so I feel I think there's a different. I think there's still the expectations you need to be an expert about topic to write about it and to talk about it. I think it's not so goal for me. When I think of to write, when I write, it's not to impress other people. For me to write is to consolidate what I learned, and I just hope to get feedback from the community. So just to shift from trying to impress people to trying to learn, you just put me in a different mindset. It take up a lot of pressure and make me feel more comfortable putting materials out there.
Exactly. That's why I say it's same. To write is to learn. Exactly.
Great. Very true. And also, Chip, obviously you are very busy with a lot of commitments that I can see. But how do you stay current in machine learning and still manage all your work life commitments and all of those things?
What life? There's no work-life balance.
Oh, we just found out.
I never heard of that term. No, I think so how to stay current. I think the more narrow the focus, the easier it is for you to not keep up to date to it. So I think in the beginning, I was trying to stay up to date with everything. I was religiously on archive and looking at browsing papers, and it was so overwhelming. And so realized that a lot of papers are not actually very useful. And it's just by paying too much attention to papers, I actually get too much noise and not my strong focus. So I actually have stopped browsing papers. I think it's more so I spend dedicated time the years. I think I usually try to coincide with conferences. So for example, when I clear a new riffs come out, I look at all the papers. So I write some script to analyze them to get some certain keywords so to have a better understanding of the trend. What was the keywords of being mentioned more this year compared to last year. So I get a sense of the trend. And then I look into since I look into abstract, try to read a bunch of abstract and see what I'm interested in. And it's also one way for me to see where the field is heading, what it has changed, because I'm not in research, so I don't feel I need to stay up to date with every single paper. So one reason why I think I left research, I don't think I can deal with that religiously browsing papers and review cycle is just so painful. So that, and I started talking to friends. So same thing. It's really, I think I keep telling people this when you start in careers, it's really good to have a peer group of people who are also interested in what you're interested in, so you can learn together. So because one person you can't keep up to with everything, but you have 3 or 4 people, it's actually doable. So you just talk to people, but be very careful and don't get into the own echo chamber, because it's just 4 people and you just think exactly the same, then it's dangerous. So it's good to go to events and talk to people, make new friends. Yeah, and also of course like following people on Twitter, but it's like recently there's so much drama on Twitter. It's getting like kind of paid for as well. But yeah, when I try to get in touch, I think join community. I think like ODSC is great. I think also like start a Discord server. Like it's more like for people to like share what they're interested in. And over time it's growing. And I think like is I learned a lot from people in the community. So yeah, I think like finding a community that that share the interest and can help you learn is extremely important.
Yeah, that's a great point, because no matter what, I've had quite a few iterations over my career in different domains, and
Yeah.
talking to people within that field, and I think that's where we've kind of taken a big hit over the pandemic. That's the whole meetup community has been kind of
Yeah.
put on hold. So I'm really hoping to see that out, because that was great. But I would love to switch back to more the engineering side question, if you don't mind, Chip. Like, so where do you find, like, what are some of the biggest myths in machine learning system design, machine learning in production? Like, what are some of the myths that you find out there that are prevalent?
Um, I think so I think there's a lot of myths. I see this like the misunderstandings, but I feel like it's
Is a
more.
better way of putting it, yeah.
Yeah, I think like there's more people who started facing the problems. I think there's the misunderstandings are like better clear, but then they have new misunderstandings. So I think like in the beginning, I think there's some of the some misunderstandings I saw was just like I think it comes from a lot from different people will have different like misunderstandings or like different expectations. So for example, like from students who are looking for a job who thinks they're gonna think that like, oh, in production I'm pretty like only gonna deal with like one model. And they think of like designing the system, the infrastructure to like accommodate like one model, one system. Whereas like in reality, like you have a lot of models. First of all, like companies like Uber have thousands of models, Google also has
Oh, wow.
thousands of models. Like Booking.com has like around like 150 models. So like when it operates at scale, you can't just like eyeballing everything, right? You can't just like, okay, let's just see if this model like changed and then update it. You can't do that like individually. You have to find a way to like monitor it, own the models at the same time, and you have to automate the process. So a lot of things has to go around like automations. Or like misunderstanding from like business leaders. I'm not sure you guys saw some headlines from last a couple of years ago. They were like, oh, companies like try AI out and they got like zero improvement and they were so disappointed. AI is a bust. And like the thing is, it's like AI can help a lot to transform the business, but it's not going to happen overnight. Like companies have a lot of like return on investments. Companies have been into AI for a long game. Like Google, they've been into AI for like decades, right? So I think like the more the companies are into AI, the more mature your infrastructure is going to become. So it's going to make you do things more efficient. You can put models out more frequently, and you know that like the longer the models stay in production, the less good it's going to become. Like it would take like 6 months to like deploy the models, and by the time that you deploy the model, it's already like dated. So you're not going to get good performance. But if you can train the model and take it out like next day and like in hours, then you can see like a lot of improvement. So I think like you for business leaders, you can't expect to see AI to transform the business overnight. Like you have to like invest into good infrastructure, good practices that can automate the process. And I think another misunderstanding is that from a lot from business leaders when they plan for a machine learning project, they have they think it's like if you finish like building the model, you're done. So I have seen this actually. It's pretty. I think it's funny. It's like social companies, they hire outside consultants to build the machine learning models, and then they got the model back and they're extremely happy and they okay done. Like see, it's so much cheaper than investing in the in-house machine learning team. But then they deploy that model and then like 6 months later, they think like, oh my god, all the business metrics are like going down. And they were like, what do we do now? Like you either like hire the same consultant and pay them a lot of money, or they hire another consultant because like that same consultant knows that they have the leverage, right? And you're stuck with them now. Or if you hire another consultant or companies, you have to like brief them from the beginning. Or like hire the in-house. So I think it's very important to understanding that like getting the models production is just the first step, like a very small step. And the hard part is how to keep that model in productions and like keep monitoring it for side failures and like how to allow it to like really to automate the update process, like if you retrain the model, like how do you get the data automatically, how do you evaluate, and then how do you just push the changes out quickly. So I think that's a hard part.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely the hard part, but it's also a very exciting part, right? Because a lot of CTOs, the C-suite in companies, they're very much attuned to the fact that they've software is the main driver in a lot of industries now, and they're used to the software development lifecycle. That you do a big push, and then you have a deployment cycle, and then you're doing these deployment cycles. Whereas machine learning, data science in production, it's more like real time, where it's not just real time on the input side, but it's real time on every step of it. Because I'm pretty fascinated by the analogies between software engineering and machine learning engineering. Because, for example, in the software engineering cycle, for the most part, your production bugs are always a problem, but you're debugging at the development cycle side. Whereas in machine learning, you're doing a lot more debugging in the production, like to understand how your models are working, model deprecation, and all that good stuff. So I think there's, as you said, huge opportunities out there for consultants, but also I think it's fascinating because as we add more pieces to it, there's more depth, more breadth as well as depth to it. But those are great. By the way, Chip, thank you.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I think I think it definitely agrees, like investment on I think like not just what you said, but also like on the infrastructure to allow to do all of that very automated and quickly would be great. And I think like I would love to see more like come in abstractions. I think the huge problem I see right now is the problem with like interoperability. Oh God, I can never say. Like, do you know how to say the word I'm talking about?
Interoperability. I
yes. I can never say the word. Yeah.
Say real fast, people get it.
That's why I must stick to writing. I don't think we become an YouTuber. I don't think I can pronounce words. But I think.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I think it's just like I think it's like it's very hard to make a tool work for another, because I think like a lot of tool vendors, like service vendors, they're ambitious. They start like trying to build like a lot of steps. So have like this tool cover A, B, C, D, and then other tool like C, B, C, D, E, and other tools like D, E, F, and you can't really make them work together. And it's like it's like very hard to swap around tools. I wish there was more common attraction so that make it easier. Like if we're unhappy with a tool, we can like, try it out another. But there's not really a
Yeah, and I think platform providers, they're really trying to play catch up all the time, and it's really a very difficult task. And and you just reminded me of something pretty funny, because I do think it was hilarious, because I think 3 or 4 years ago we started doing talks and training on AutoML, and certain people were freaking out about AutoML, and you're seeing blogs like data science is dead, there's no students in machine learning, and now they've gone 180, and they're like, I think you kind of alluded, we wish we had more AutoML, because you had AutoML in the tuning and feature selection and feature engineering side. Now you want AutoML in the ETL, and now people are looking for AutoML. So I think the whole confusion and buzzwords around AutoML, MLOps, like everyone looks for these 4, 5, or 6 character acronyms to solve their problem. Who knows? But
I agree, like AutoML part about like I think it's good to have things automated, because I don't feel it very fulfilling to like try out like 100 sets of hyperparameters to find the best one. I don't feel like I'm loading a lot of the process. Like if there's some like intelligence like machine can do that for me, I'm happy for them too. So I can like focus on doing more actually fun things.
Sorry, Rabbit. We've gone.
No worries. No, this is super insightful, and one of the obviously I want to shift gears a bit. I know we are towards the end, but can't wait to learn a little about MLOps. I know it's relatively super new, but still it's one of the most important topics and hot topics today, and it's suddenly getting that excitement around in a lot of communities. So, would love to know your thoughts on MLOps and why such a sudden excitement about MLOps, Chip.
So I think like MLOps is like ops here stand for operationalize, right? So like MLOps is just about like operationalize ML, which is basically just to bring machine learning into production. So I think I think the excitement is just because we realizes like the hard part is into like making all the research work in productions, and it's just no this is no catch all like solutions here, because I think it's like what does it mean for machine learning, for like bringing machine into productions? What does it mean? It's like very different to different companies. So first one, like for some companies, like production means that like you have a notebook, you generate some like plot, like matplotlib, some PDF, and you show to the boss, right? But then a lot of companies means it's like you have to like export the model, deploy it, and then like not just on the server but like on the device, like because you worry about latency. So like it's a wide spectrum of like what it means to productions. So that's what makes it like really difficult, because the task is just like too diverse and it's just different requirements. So I think that's why it's so exciting recently, because people are trying to figure out like how to do it like best for their company.
True.
And yeah, I would. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
These are the points.
No, I just wanted to, obviously also see where is actually MLOps being applied in which sectors and industries as of now. Chip, do you have any idea about that?
I think AI is getting like ML is getting increasingly being used in more industry. I think I saw a like McKinsey report recently about like the value creation created by AI is about like I think it's $13 trillion by 2030. Okay, don't quote me on this. My memory is very foggy these days. But like it's some incredible number, and I see like the large majority of it is like outside the like traditional internet consumer industry. So one thing about like AI creation is like you need to do like for some like fancy tech companies, but we're like looking into like from into retail, into travel, into even like fashions. Like AI is helping people like like how or even like I think I'm really excited about is like material engineering. So you can use machine learning to create a new material structure and have new materials I've never had before, and it's like incredible. And I also like in biotechnology, like I think like Salesforce recently has a paper out on how they use language model to generate a protein that can actually like create like protein. And it's like incredible. Like you can like, create new proteins that can help to use in drugs and help to cure disease. I think this. So I think that because of like there's so many potential use cases of machine learning in different fields, I think it's really important that we get people from other fields into machine learning. So we need to like look into people who are not just like traditional CS computer science graduate, but people who like background in like anything really in biochemistry. Even in non-engineering, even in writing, art. So I'm very excited about it.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I just had 2 points, but one of which may seem very strange because, when we were running the Open Data Science Conference, like even back in 2018, we're definitely seeing it. It was, again, industry buzzwords. It was DevOps to data ops was the thing. A lot of people were pushing data ops. And then it was AI ops. Now it's MLOps. And you're right. It doesn't quite, your point, Chip, it doesn't quite capture what's going on. Number one, because I think I'm more interested in and we actually, and truth be told, we do have a whole focus area in ODSC West called data engineering and MLOps. So we're huge proponents of it. But just a couple of caveats to that. One is to the people just beginning their career, this can seem like a bit intimidated because now not only do I have to learn the foundational models, the foundational math, the theory, the programming. Now you want me to not only know DAS and Kubernetes, but Flight and Docker, and understand what continuous integration is and continuous deployment is, and modern monitoring. Like it can seem very, very, very intimidating. And I think it is more of I kind of look at MLOps as more of a company culture thing to a certain degree because, as a beginner, I would say, at the end of the day, you should be focusing on, the fundamentals yourself. But to someone who's the people on this call who may be already doing something close to MLOps, like the more applied data scientists, to me, it takes in a lot of, engineering disciplines and applies them to machine learning in good ways, and vice versa, takes a lot of what we know about machine learning and applies that to software engineering. So I think there's a lot of companies to do this successfully. To your point earlier, Chip, about the companies who gave up on AI, they were probably running some models on a laptop or a server, weren't using MLOps. But a lot of companies to be successful in AI need to have a mature cycle, a mature machine learning life cycle. And it doesn't mean that one person is going to run that whole mature line, because it takes a big investment, big teams. So you probably need people who are data engineers, people who are system engineers, who are machine learning engineers, and people shouldn't feel that they know, because I've tried to do this myself. You can't build the whole cycle, the whole life cycle yourself, and we're definitely not trying to propose that. Like, of course, you can know parts of it, but for pretty much every step in the life cycle, there's multiple tools to employ there, because there is no, despite what people would have you believe, there is no MLOps solution. It is a lot of glue, right?
Yeah.
And you need different people within that company to glue it. So, and one of the reasons we have a data engineering and focus and MLOps focus areas to bring together those different disciplines. Like the QA people have a role, the DevOps, system ops, the data scientists, the machine learning engineers,
Yeah.
And then when you get into hardware, it's a whole other different, like, risk management in your models.
Yeah.
So so that's why we're hugely excited about it. But I'm not trying to say that I can become an MLOps, because I think it's pretty hilarious. People saying, "How do I become an MLOps engineer?"
Yeah.
I will hire you and then resell your services to the highest bidder for a lot of money. So, any of you out there who's an MLOps engineer, I can find you plenty of work as one of those consultants. But sorry for going on about that, but I just wanted to make that point to our audience, because it may be a hot topic, but it can also be another headache for a lot of people. Like, do I really have to learn yet another? Is it, it's like, it already feels like you're drinking from a fire hose in this field that it is. So important point.
I think I'll piggyback off Seamus' point. Is that I think one thing is here when people like try to learn about MLOps, you focus too much on tools. And I think about tools is just like they get outdated very quickly. Tools change. If you like the skills are on tool base, then when that tool goes out of fashion, you wanna be like out of work. So I think like I try to like focus more on the fundamentals, like why you need to do this, like what's the problem is this tool trying to solve and how they solve it. Is that like the optimal solutions, and try to learn about the problem oriented instead of tool oriented.
That's a great point. Like, latency never goes out of fashion. Right. Reliability, robustness, all the abilities. Yeah, no, that's why, because I see a lot of analogies between engineering and even all the engineering disciplines and the scientific disciplines and this. So that's great.
Super insightful. Thanks for those insightful points. We have a question for you, Chip, around your course. Is there any possibility to get class recording for 329S sometime soon on YouTube?
It's in the roadmap. I think that's one thing I learned from like business speak. It's like it's in the roadmap. It's not very non-committal. So I want to. So I think like the last year, I think we were like not extremely. I think the last year because it was the first time. So the cost was like still a lot of room for improvement. So we didn't put the videos online. But I think hopefully this year, I think we spend like another extra year preparing for it. So hopefully this year we can make that happen. It's in the roadmap.
Amazing. That answers for Sachin. Thanks for that. Also, quickly, just wanted, before I ask you about your topic and your title that you'll be talking at the ODSC West, I just wanted to quickly remind our audience about the ODSC and wanted to just give them a quick sneak peek where they can visit. They can easily go to odsc.com/California. It's happening in person and virtual from November 16th to 18th. So guys, you can actually visit in person too, which is time for us to reconnect. And these are the focus areas that we'll be focusing. Let me quickly, yes, here they are. And also MLOps was there, as Seamus mentioned, machine learning and deep learning, and lot more topics. We already have the keynotes as well decided. Carlos is coming in.
We have Russell speaking as well. Thanks.
Yes, this is amazing. So super excited for that. But Chip, we would love to know what is your title, and will you be visiting in person just for our
Yeah.
audience. Yeah.
And I'm gonna be visiting that with my good friend, Vili. So we're gonna have the talk on unifying the development and the production environment for machine learning engineers and data scientists. And the first portion of my talk is gonna be, of course, like this talk. Like I'm gonna do it, but like the next session is a hands-on tutorial when my friend Vili. Oh, he's a creator of Metaflow. It's a really incredible tool.
Oh, yeah, great.
So
Wow.
yeah. So it's like it's allow you to run like batch processes from the notebook with like just adding one line of code. So it was developed at Netflix. So he's gonna give a tutorial on how to do that. So please drop by.
Super
Looking forward
amazing.
to it. It's gonna be excellent.
Yes, and just a last question, Chip. Obviously, for our audience, if they want to reach out to you, if they have any questions around your book, around your courses, around the
Uh-huh.
different things that you do, which is the best place to reach out to you?
Yeah. I think the channel was I'm most active on is probably like Twitter. Um, so you can reach out through email. Question be found my website like chip@chip.com. For my course is offered through SCPD. If you want to take the course, SCPD is like Stanford Center for Professional Development. So there's a course offer for like people who from outside Stanford who want to take the course. I'm still writing a book for O'Reilly, which is called Designing Machine Learning Systems. It's centered around the topic we discussed in this session. And I think it should be out early next year. And of course, I mean, like we're doing a startup and we are hiring for really good engineers. So I think something I learned from hiring is just like I much prefer hiring good engineers than good machine learning experts, because I feel like it's faster for a good engineer to pick up machine learning principles than for a machine learning expert to like pick up good engineering principles. And to build a production ready systems, you need really good engineering principles.
Wow.
We actually do have a free jobs board as well, Chip. If you want to send us those
Yeah.
positions, we can get them out to our community as well. So anyone in this call better get the resumes in before we publish it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think I want to get one to offer. Thank you.
Yeah, just send them directly to me and I'll take care of it for you.
Amazing. This was fantastic, Chip. Thanks for getting on this warm-up session. We learned so much. And Seamus is always there to share his amazing insights as well. So thanks, Seamus. And looking forward to the weekend, and also looking forward to your West talk, Chip. We are super excited. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you. It's gonna be my first in-person event in 2 years, so I'm very excited. And thank you guys for organizing this.
Yeah, thank you, Ravid, for being a wonderful host as always. And Chip, wonderful talking to you. Amazing achievements. Loved hearing more about your story, and thanks for being such a strong supporter of the open source community, doing so much great efforts out there, and absolutely looking forward to meeting you in person.
Thank you. Thanks, Ravid. Thanks, Seamus. Should I
Bye
leave
now.
the studio now? Yeah.